Let's stitch a line of backstitch. So bring your needle up at the start of the line and pull all of your working thread through to the front of the fabric so that your knots holding things nice and secure at the back. Now poke your needle down on the line about a stitch length ahead. Pull your needle through to the bottom and draw through all of that working thread so that your first stitch is sitting nice and flush on top of the fabric. You don't need to pull super tight. And you can just check at this point, is your knot still nice and flush with the fabric at the back? And I can feel that mine is. Okay, so the next step is to bring your needle up a stitch length ahead on the line. And once again, pull through all of your working thread so that it's all hanging out on the top. Okay, so now what we've actually done is we've made a stitch on top of the fabric and we've got a gap here. So here's the key with backstitch. We're actually going to go backwards now and we're going to poke our needle down at the end of that previous stitch. In this case, it's the first stitch. And when we do that, so poke your needle down at the end of that first stitch, pull the needle right through and all the working thread, and hey, look at that. We've actually made 2 stitches on the top of the fabric now. We've covered up that gap with a stitch, and we've started to form a solid line. So poke your needle up again, a stitch length ahead, bring through all that working thread to the top, and then just like before, instead of going forward, come back, poke your needle down at the end of the previous stitch, and cover that gap with your third back stitch. So yeah, basically you continue doing that along the line, always bringing your needle up a stitch length ahead, and then poking your needle down at the end of the previous stitch. And I'll just show you that. Draw through all that working thread. You don't have to pull super tight. You just want your stitches to sit nice and comfortably on top of the fabric. And see how our line of back stitch is forming. Now, when you poke your needle down to make the back stitch, you can poke it down into the same hole as the previous stitch, or if it's just beside it on the line, it doesn't really matter as long as it's not sitting nice and close. You just don't want to end up with big gaps in between each stitch. Something else to think about is the actual length of your stitches. I know I'm saying a stitch length ahead, and as a beginner it can be quite hard to gauge that. There's no right or wrong. It just looks great if you can keep them nice and consistent, and of course that will come with practice. If your stitch isn't sitting really nice and comfortably on the fabric, you can sometimes go like that just to add a bit more slack to it and then just gently retighten it. One of my strands of floss has come away then, so I'm going to just do that again. Cool, and now that's just sitting a little bit nicer, but remember, progress over perfection. So yes, if you're just working on a straight line, it's great if you can keep your stitches nice and consistent, and that comes with practice. My stitch lengths are around about 1/5 of an inch long, to be precise, but you don't need to be precise. I often notice though that beginners do their back stitches shorter than they need to and pull them really tight. So I'd just have a think about going a little bit longer than your instinct might first tell you as a beginner. And that is how we work a line of backstitch.